Good morning, all of you. Today, we will learn the construction of DC generator. So, we have seen different types of generators, and let us now move to the parts of DC generator. And before that, we will go with a small introduction of what is how it works, DC generator principle. And here we can observe different parts. If we open a DC generator, we can observe different parts. So coming to this one, first we can observe yoke, and afterwards armature winding, field winding, support head for bearings, shaft spline, shaft, ball bearings, laminated pole, field pole, terminals cover, and suppress box. And next one we observe terminals, load junction, capacitor, clamps, window strap, anti-drive and head, end cover, and retaining cap. These are all the different parts of DC generator. So before that, we will take a glance at working principle of DC generator. So the working principle of DC generator is when the armature starts moving through the mechanical energy applied on its shaft, then the armature coils produce an EMF. This EMF links with the field poles due to magnetic flux, and the current is generated in the field poles to provide DC on its output terminals. And before that also we'll see the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. So basically Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, it states that and Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction is again divided into two laws. The DC generator works on the Faraday's first law of electromagnetic induction. So coming to Faraday's first law of electromagnetic induction, whenever a conductor cuts a magnetic flux, an EMF is induced in that conductor, and a simple loop generator or loop generator is based on this law of electromagnetic induction. That is, whenever a conductor cuts a magnetic flux, an EMF is induced in that conductor. This is how an EMF is induced in the conductor. And similarly, a simple loop generator or single loop generator is based on this electromagnetic induction only. And coming to second law of electromagnetic induction, it states that the magnitude of generated EMF in a conductor is equal to the rate of change of flux linkages. Okay, this is about second law. And the conversion of mechanical energy into electrical energy is based on the Faraday's first law of electromagnetic induction, and generally it is used in DC generator. Without this law, it is not capable to convert mechanical energy to DC electrical energy. So DC generator works on the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. So according to Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, whenever a conductor cuts a magnetic flux, an EMF is induced in that conductor. The magnitude of induced EMF can be found by Faraday's second law. That is, the magnitude of generated EMF in a conductor is equal to the rate of change of flux linkages. So this is brief introduction of Faraday's first law and second law of electromagnetic induction. And now coming to single loop generator. So single loop generator or simple loop generator, it is a basic concept of the DC generator. It is a conductor placed between the magnetic bars. These magnetic bars may be permanent magnets or electromagnets. The basic working of simple loop generator is when the two wires, conductors or coils are placed between the magnet bars, and imagine the coil is rotating clockwise. The flux starts changing its value, so that as a result an EMF is induced in it. Okay, so what a simple loop generator states that the working of a simple loop generator is when the two wires or conductors or coils are placed between the magnet bars, and just imagine that the coil is rotating clockwise, the flux starts changing its value, and because of this, that is, as a result, EMF is induced in it. Okay, and next one, uh, simple loop generator, it is basically consists of two conductors or coils, two magnet bars and two slip rings which are insulated with each other and forms a central shaft, and a normal wire for connection as required, and the rotating coil may be assumed as armature and the magnet bars as field magnets. So a simple loop generator, it is basically consists of two conductors or coils and two magnet bars with two slip rings, and a normal wire for connection is required, and the slip rings are insulated with each other and from central shaft. The rotating coil is called as armature, and the magnet bars are called as the field magnets. And now, coming to the working principle, let us assume that the coil or the two conductors are rotating in clockwise direction. The coil has a fixed position between the field, and the flux linked with it starts changing its value. So as a result, EMF is induced in it, and it is proportional to the rate of change of flux linkage. Okay, that is, the coil or two conductors are rotating in clockwise direction. The coil has a fixed position. It is placed in between the field, and the flux linked with it starts changing its value, so that EMF is induced in it, and it is proportional to the rate of change of flux linkages. This is according to Faraday's first law and second laws. So when the coil reaches at 90 degrees in this process of rotation, the coil slides do not cut the flux, and the flux move parallel between them, and as a result, EMF is not induced in the coil. And next one, as the coil continues its rotation, the amount increases to its maximum, and when the coil reaches again at 90 degrees, then in this case maximum EMF is induced in the coil. This is because of the maximum flux is produced. Okay, so this is how EMF is induced. That is, when the coil first reaches 90 degrees in the process of rotation, the coil slides do not cut the flux, because the flux move parallel between them. As a result, EMF is not induces in the coil, and as the coil continue its rotation, the amount increases to its peak value, and when the coil reaches after 90, that is 180 again, then it's 90 degrees, then reaches again at 90 degrees, then in this case maximum EMF is induced in the coil, because the maximum flux is produced at that 90 degrees. That is, maximum flux is cut in this case, so that at 90 degrees we will get the maximum EMF induced. And the result, when the coil again rotates from 90 to 180 degrees, then the flux increases gradually, and the rate of change of flux linkages decreases. Okay, and next, when the coil rotates from 180 to 360 degrees, the variation occurs in the magnitude of the EMF. At first, EMF remains similar on the middle position, and EMF reaches to its maximum, and at the end minimum EMF is produced. Okay, and the current produced in the coil is alternating, and we get this current rectified by the split rings. Okay, hence the armature of a DC generator also provides the alternating voltages. Already we have covered these topics in the previous classes, that is simple loop generator from point to point, from 0 to 90, 90 to 180, 180 to 270, positive peak and negative peaks, how we will get, and the flux, how the flux cut. So that we have seen already these topics. Just for the sake of introduction, revision purpose, we are again reminding this topic, that is single loop generator. Now let us move to the actual topic of today's, that is construction of DC generator, that is the parts of DC generator. So first part is yoke or main cover. Yoke or main cover. I think all of you have observed this part, yoke or main cover. So yoke is the main cover of the DC generator, made of iron or any other material, and it provides mechanical support for the poles, and it acts as a protecting cover for the whole machine. Protecting cover for the whole machine. And next it saves the purpose of outmost that is cover of the DC machine, so that the insulating materials get protected from that is harmful atmospheric elements like we'll see moisture, dust, and various gases like SO2, acidic fumes, etc. So the purpose of yoke is to cover the DC generator, so that the harmful atmospheric elements won't be enter into the DC machine, and then it provides the mechanical support to the poles, and it forms a part of the magnetic circuit because it provides a path of low reluctance for magnetic flux. And coming to choice of material, it has to provide a low reluctance path. It must be made up of some magnetic material, and it is generally prepared by cast iron because it is somewhat cheap. For large machines, rolled steel or cast steel is used because they'll provide high permeability, that is low reluctance, and gives good mechanical strength. This is about yoke, that is it is the protection cover for the DC generator and mechanical support to the poles. And it forms a part of the magnetic circuit because it provides a path of low reluctance for magnetic flux. Okay, so this is about yoke. Next, pole cores. Coming to poles, we have two parts: pole core and pole shoe. So the function of the part pole core and pole shoes are: pole core basically carries a field winding which is necessary to produce the flux, and second point is it directs the flux produced through air gap to armature core to the next pole. So, and the pole shoe enlarges the area of armature core to come across the flux, and it is necessary to produce larger induced EMF. So to achieve this, pole core has been given a particular shape. In this diagram we can observe the shape of the pole cores and the pole shoes, how they are made. That is, pole core basically carries a field winding which is necessary to produce the flux. Second point is, it gives the direction, that is, it directs the flux produced through the air gap to armature core to the next pole. Next one, the pole shoe, it enlarges the area of armature core to come across the flux, and it is necessary to produce to somewhat larger induced EMF. So to achieve this, what will do is, pole core has been given a particular shape. And next one, coming to choice of material, it is made up of magnetic material like cast iron or cast steel, and it requires a definite shape and size. Laminated construction is used. The laminations, why we need the laminations is, we require the laminations of required size and shape and stamp put together to get a pole, which is then bolted to yoke. So this is how we have to construct the pole cores and pole shoes. That is, it is necessary, pole core basically carries a field winding, and which it is necessary to produce the flux, and it directs the flux produced through air gap to armature core to the next pole. So it needs a particular shape, and it is made up of magnetic materials like cast steel or cast iron. Okay. And it is bolted to the yoke. This is pole cores and pole shoes. Next one, field coils. Field coils. In this diagram we can observe the field coils. So field coils are the coils of a conductor wounded across the pole core. When current is passed through these coils, the poles reacts as an electromagnet and magnetic flux is produced in it. Okay. Field coils. Field coils are the coils of a conductor when the current through these coils, the pole reacts as electromagnet, and the magnetic magnetic flux is produced in it. Okay. And next, coming to field winding. So the field winding is wound on the pole core with a definite direction, and the function is to carry current due to which a pole core on which the winding is placed behaves as an electromagnet, producing necessary flux. And as it is helping in producing the magnetic field, that is exciting the poles as electromagnet, it is called field winding or exciting winding. And next one, choice of material is, as it has to carry current, it should be made up of some conducting material like aluminum or copper. Coming to the shape, a field coil should take any type of shape, should bend easily, so copper is the proper choice. And field winding is divided into various coils called as the field coils. We can observe different field coils in this diagram. These are connected in series with each other and wound in such a direction around the pole cores such that alternate north and south poles are formed. So field windings are divided into various coils. Those are called field coils, and these are connected in series with each other and wound in such that that is in such a direction around pole cores, so that an alternate north and south poles are formed. This is how the field coils are framed. Next one, armature core. Armature core. Here in the armature core, in this diagram we can see armature core is cylindrical or drum shaped and is built up of circular steel sheets or laminations, and it is set to the shaft. The slots are punched on its outer side. In small machines or motors, the armature slots are set directly to the shaft, and these laminations are used for the cooling purpose for the armature and to reduce eddy current losses and voltage drops. The circular stampings or slots are cut out in one piece. We can see all these points in this armature core. That is, it is cylindrical or drum shape. It is built up of circular steel sheets or laminations, and the slots are punched on its outer side. This and that is, in small machines or motors, the armature slots are set directly to the shaft, and these are the laminations are also used for cooling purpose of the armature and to reduce the eddy current losses and voltage drops. And the circular stampings or slots are cut out in one piece. This is about armature core. Coming to armature winding. Next one, armature winding. Once observe this diagram, how the armature winding looks like. Armature winding. So it is usually a farmer wound copper coil which rests in armature slots, and the armature conductors are insulated from each other and also from the armature core. Armature winding can be wound by one of the two methods. One that is we know lap winding or wave winding. Double layer lap or wave windings are generally used, and a double layer winding means that each armature slot will carry two different coils. So here the armature windings are in a wound form, and these windings are insulated from each other, and normally copper windings are generally used. These conductors or winding is placed in the armature slots which are lined with insulation. This is about armature winding. The armature winding. Next, coming to commutator. So the purpose of commutator is it collects current from the armature winding or conductors. So physical connection of a armature winding is made through a commutator brush arrangement. The function of a commutator in a DC generator is to collect the current generated in armature conductors. Whereas in case of DC motor, commutator helps in providing current to the armature conductors. And this commutator consists of generally a set of copper segments which are insulated from each other. The number of segments is equal to the number of armature coils, and that is, each segment is connected to an armature coil, and the commutator is keyed to the shaft. Brushes are usually made from carbon or graphite. That is, let us afterwards we'll see the brushes. So coming to this commutator, the commutator provides collection of current from the armature winding or conductors. It converts the alternating current which is induced in the armature conductors into direct current. It is a cylindrical shape and have wedge shaped segments. These segments are insulated from each other, and the number of segments are equal to the number of armature coil, and we know the segment each segment is connected to the armature conductor through riser or strip. These segments have V grooves to prevent from centrifugal forces. V grooves to prevent from centrifugal forces. So this is about our commutator. So the main function of a commutator is to facilitate the collection of current from the armature conductors, to convert internally developed alternating EMF to directional EMF, and to produce unidirectional torque in case of motor. And coming to the choice of material, it collects current from the armature, so obviously it is made up of copper segments. It is generally in cylindrical shape and made of wedge shaped segments, and which are insulated from each other by a thin layer of mica. For insulation purpose we will use mica here. Okay. Next one, brush gear. So the brushes are stationary. We'll see in the diagram. Brush gear, the part we can observe. Brush gear. Brushes are stationary and rest on the surface of the commutator. Brushes are rectangular in shape. They are housed in brush holders which are usually of box type, and the brushes are made of press on the commutator surface by means of a just like a spring whose tension can be adjusted with the help of a lever, and a flexible copper conductor called pigtail is used to connect the brush to the external circuit, and its function is to collect the current from commutator and make it available to the stationary external circuit. That is the brush gear. Coming to the brush gear, so brush gear holds heavy carbon brushes and are used to transfer huge amount of excitation current from it to the terminal junction. Normally these are used in high rated DC generators. The brush gear it is used to change its position according to the requirement, either if you want small output current or either if you want maximum current. And the important point is, the important use in case of brush gear is to adjust the carbon brushes in different direction to get maximum DC output from the DC generator. Okay, and next one, coming to these brush gears only, it holds heavy heavy carbon brushes and are used to transfer huge amount of excitation current from it to the terminal junction. Normally these are used in highly rated DC generators. The brush gear is used to change its position according to the requirement, either for the small output currents or for the maximum current. That is the brush gear is to adjust the carbon brushes in different directions to get the maximum DC output from the DC generators. Here we can observe one capacitor also. here we can observe the capacitor. So capacitor is the basic component of DC generator. It is used to remove some fluctuations and filters the DC output supply from its output terminals. That is, generally it is used for filtering purpose only. So it provides smoothness in output voltage and provides the constant voltage. Okay, next one, after capacitors, load junction. So load junction of a DC generator consists of the two output terminal wires, negative and positive, which are installed in the terminal box to provide the load current and are used to connect the load supply on it. This junction is very strong and the two wires are connected to the commutator from which they are, so that is where, from which they take DC in it and then provide it on its junction for the load connection. Load junction of a DC generator, it consists of two output terminals, negative and positive, which are installed in the terminal box to provide the load current and they are used to connect the load supply on it, and this junction is very strong, and two wires are connected to the commutator from which they take DC in it and then provide it on its junction for the load connection. Okay, next, terminals. So in some modified DC generators, the manufacturers provide an easy junction for the load, and the manufacturers provide the two wires which are already connected to the load junction, and these two wires are assembled and installed in the main cover or yoke of the DC generator to connect directly to the load connection. That is terminals. That is, in general, in modified generators, an easy junction for the load and two wires which are already connected to the load junction they are providing, and these two wires are assembled and installed in the main cover, or let us take yoke of the DC generator, and it is to connect directly to the load connection. This is about load junction, terminals, brush gear, capacitors, and commutator. And next one, suppressor box. You can see the suppressor box. A suppressor box, it is used to reduce the irrelevant and unwanted noise of high kV rated DC generators. And this box consists of various valves and some other filters like holes, iron rings, resistive net, etc., and which are used to reduce the noise from the generator. Suppress box, it is used to reduce the unwanted noise of high kV rated DC generators, and the box generally consists of various valves and some other filters like holes, like that, and these are used to reduce the noise from the generator. Next one, terminal cover. So terminal cover is it is just like a cap, that is, which protects the joints of the DC generator terminals and the load terminals, and this cover is also used for safety measures to prevent from electric shock and fire. Okay, so terminal cover, it is a cap, just like a cap, which is protecting the joints of DC generator terminals and the load terminals, and This is also a kind of safety measurement to prevent from electric shock and fire. So this is about terminal cover. Next, coming to carbon brushes. Carbon brushes. So carbon brushes in DC generator, the carbon brushes are used to collect current from the commutator and then provide it to its main contacts. And these brushes are commonly made of carbon or graphite. Carbon or graphite. You can observe in the diagram how the carbon brushes look like. These brushes are commonly made up of carbon or carbon and graphite, and these brushes are rectangular shaped. These brushes are mounted on the brush holders, and the brush holders are mounted on a spindle, and these brushes remain joined with the commutator by a spring, and a flexible copper pigtail is mounted on the top of the carbon brushes, which convey current from the brushes to the holder. So this is how the carbon brushes helps. That is, in DC generator, the carbon brushes are generally used to collect current from the commutator, and then it provides it to its main contacts. These are generally made up of carbon and graphite. These are rectangular in shape. These brushes are mounted on the brush holders, and the brush holders is mounted on a spindle. These brushes remain joined with the commutator by a spring, and a flexible copper pigtail is mounted on the top of the carbon brushes, which convey current from the brushes to the holders. This is about carbon brushes. Next, coming to bearings. Bearings. Bearings are used to rotate shaft very easily. Usually, ball bearings are frequently used in heavy machines due to its flexibility. Ball bearings work very efficiently in heavy machines. The balls and rollers of ball bearings are packed in hard oil. Okay, this is about bearings. And if you see again the main parts of a DC generator, okay, and if you see here the bearing support head, bearing support head, bearing support head looks like the shape of bearings, and it holds the bearings. Bearings holds the bearings in its case to provide support and alignment, and it is fixed to straight the bearing, and it provides the complete support in a required direction to provide uninterruptible function. Okay, bearing support head. Support head of for bearing we can see. So bearing support head looks like the shape of bearing, and it holds the bearings in its case to provide support and alignment, and it is fixed straight. It provides complete support in a required direction to provide the uninterruptible function. And next, coming to the shaft. So a shaft of a DC generator, it is a mechanical component. It consists of a mild steel and it provides torque and rotation, and it is a prototype and long, and it is used for coupling in DC generator to provide mechanical energy. So it is a mechanical component. It consists of mild steel and it provides them torque and rotation. It is a prototype and long, and it is used for coupling in DC generator to provide mechanical energy. Okay, next coming to shaft spline. Shaft spline. So it is a small component that is installed on a shaft. Sometimes it is fixed on a shaft and sometimes it comes in variable form. A shaft spline consists of teeth and in a circular form, and is used for coupling or joining the other shaft to it for mechanical input for DC generator. That is shaft spline. It is installed on a shaft, and sometimes it is fixed on a shaft and sometimes it comes in variable form. A shaft spline consists of teeth and in a circular form and is used for coupling the other shaft to it for mechanical input for DC generators. Okay, next coming to clamps. Next coming to clamps. So clamps are used to hold the load wires tightly and make the load terminals safe and clean. That is, clamps are used to hold the load wires tightly and to make the load terminals safe and clean. Next one, window strap. So window strap, it is basically a net made up of iron and it is connected to the yoke, and it is used to provide air gap to the DC generator for the purpose of cooling, and it provides a better temperature for cooling. So this is about shaft spline, clamps and window strap. This is about the parts of DC generator. So now let us see some small video on this construction of, that is, parts of DC generator.
As you can see, the configuration of DC generator is pretty simple. The stator is a fixed part of the DC generator. The stator consists of permanent magnets, 2 of them north and south poles, which is placed to fit around the rotor. The main function of the stator is to provide the magnetic fields through which the rotor or armature coil is rotated. Armature loop are generally placed in slots of armature core. The armature coil is formed by connecting several loops in the series. Armature winding is formed by connecting several coils in series. The armature loop cuts the magnetic field, due to which an electromotive force, EMF, is induced in it. The split ring is a movable device used for reversing the polarity of the current. It's made of copper. The ring is divided through the middle into 2 parts. We must use the split ring to achieve single direction of current. The brushes are made of carbon. These are rectangular block-shaped. The only function of these carbon brushes of DC generator is to collect current from commutator segments. A galvanometer is an analog electromechanical actuator that produces a rotary deflection of some type of pointer in response to electric current. So how does the DC generator work? Firstly, we don't want that current direction to change. We want it to remain the same at all times. Let's say in this direction. So, how do we do that? Now, to make sure that the current direction remains the same, what we require is that these brushes constantly keep changing contacts between these wires for each half of rotation. So if the current flows in this way, in this position, this brush must be connected to this wire. So current flows like this and comes out. But when the coil rotates, you can see that when the coil comes to this position, the direction of the current changes. If we want to keep the current in the same direction, we must this brush to be in contact with this wire, right? And then again, when the coil comes to this position, again the direction of the current changes, and again we want this brush to come in contact with this wire. Probably we already learned that for every half rotation we must change contacts between brushes and wires. But how do we make this process happen automatically? We can automate this process by adding split rings. Split rings, as the name suggests, is a ring that is split in between, giving two half rings with the same gap in between. Now let's see how the split rings automatically change contact for every half a rotation. So right now this brush is in contact with this half part of the split ring, violet color. When the coil rotates and comes to this position, the direction of the current changes, and this brush now is in contact with the other half part of the split ring, pink color. This arrangement provides that current flows in the same direction. Again, as the coil comes to this position, finishing another half a rotation, you can see that this is only changed contact. Brush is in contact again with the violet color half part of split ring. In this way, the DC generator is built, where the current only flows in one direction through any external circuit, and in this arrangement, with brushes and split rings, which helps us to automatically change contacts, we call them commutators. So split rings act like commutators. The next thing we must mention, that it's really important for working principle of DC generator, is how can we determine the direction of the current, magnetic field and force. To determine all this, we must use Fleming's right-hand rule. So we will explain how can we use Fleming's right-hand rule. As you can see, the rotation of the coil is clockwise, and the force acting on part of the coil AB pushing that part of the coil upwards. So to know the direction of the induced current, we apply the Fleming's right-hand rule. How do we do that? We place our right hand so that the thumb points up, showing the direction of the force. The index finger or the finger pointing in direction of the magnetic field from north to south pole, and middle finger will point in the direction of the induced current, which is in our case from A to B. Similarly, to find the induced current in a part of the coil CD, we again use Fleming's right-hand rule. So the rotation of the coil is clockwise, and the force acting on part of the coil CD pushing that part of the coil downwards. The thumb points down, indicating the direction of the force, indexed finger or for the finger pointing in direction of the magnetic field from north to south, and the middle finger will point in the direction of the induced current, which is in this case from C to D. So to conclude, the induced current follows the path ABCD of the coil. The effect of the split ring commutator in DC generators is to ensure that the induced EMF is always in one direction. We can see that in this graph, where V represents the amount of induced EMF and T represents time. You will notice in the graph how the sine wave changes with rotational speed of the coil. The coil in this case has clockwise rotation. Increased rotational speed of the coil increases the amount of induced EMF. The induced EMF has a positive sign. Also, you see the example how the sine wave changes with rotational speed of the coil, when the coil is rotating counterclockwise. Again, the increased rotational speed of the coil increases the amount of induced EMF. In this case, the induced EMF has a negative sign. To conclude, the DC generator has many advantages like the design is simple to operate, highly reliable, constant voltage can be achieved, speed control is easy. Also, DC generators are added in many applications like boosters in welding equipment to charge batteries and solar systems in an emergency.
We know that a DC generator uses electromagnetic induction to convert mechanical energy into electrical energy. It is frequently used in houses and offices. But do you know how it is constructed? Let's try to understand this. A DC generator consists of a magnetic frame or yoke, the pole core, the pole coils or field coils, the armature core, the armature windings, the commutator, the brushes, and the bearings. Out of these parts, the pole core, the armature core, the yoke, and air gaps between the poles and the armature core form the magnetic circuit. Let's briefly describe each of these components. Yoke is the outer frame of a DC generator which serves two purposes. It acts as a protecting shield for the generator and provides mechanical support for the poles. In small generators, where cheapness rather than weight is the main consideration, yokes are made of cast iron. But for large generators, yokes are usually made of cast steel or rolled steel. Field magnet consists of the pole core and the pole shoes. It basically spreads out the flux in the air gap. Since it generally has a large cross section, so it reduces reluctance of the magnetic path. It acts as a support for the field coils. Pole coils consist of the copper wire or strip which is wounded on the former. After getting the correct dimensions, the former is removed and the wound coil is put into place over the core. When current is passed through these coils, the poles get electromagnetized and produce the necessary flux that is cut by revolving the armature conductors. Armature core houses the armature conductors or coils and causes them to rotate, cutting the magnetic flux of the field magnet. It also provides a path of very low reluctance to the flux through the armature. It is cylindrical or drum-shaped and is built up of usually circular sheet steel discs or laminations approximately 0.5 mm thick. The slots are either die-cut or punched on the outer periphery of the disc, and the keyway is located in the inner diameter. Armature windings are mostly employed for the armature of a DC machine. They are of two types: lap windings and wave windings. The difference between the two is merely due to the different arrangement of connections at the front or commutator end of the armature. In lap winding, the number of parallel paths is always equal to the number of poles and also the number of brushes. It is suitable for high current, low voltage machines like welding plants. Whereas in wave winding, the number of parallel paths is always 2, and there may be 2 or more brush positions. It is suitable for high voltage, low current machines like generators used for lighting. Commutator facilitates the collection of current from the armature conductors and converts the alternating current induced in the armature conductors into unidirectional current in the external load circuit. It is of cylindrical structure and is built up of wedge-shaped segments of high conductivity, hard-drawn or drop-forged copper. The segments are insulated from each other by thin layers of mica, and the number of segments is equal to the number of armature coils. Brushes collect current from the commutator. They are usually made of carbon or graphite and are in the shape of a rectangular block. They are housed in the brush holder, which is mounted on the spindle. These brushes can slide in the rectangular box, which is open at both the ends. A flexible copper pigtail mounted at the top of the brush conveys current from the brushes to the holder. The number of brushes per spindle depends upon the magnitude of the current to be collected from the commutator. And ball bearings are frequently employed because of their reliability. The ball and rollers are generally packed in hard oil for quieter operations. Note that sleeve bearings are used in order to reduce bearing wear. Basically, the schematic diagram of a DC generator is as shown, and its main parts are